Seeing how it's February and the official month of all things regarding love, I thought it would be only fitting to discuss with you today a topic that looms in the minds of single women everywhere. Is it ever alright for a girl to ask a boy out? I mean, boys aren't asking girls out in the first place, so why not? How is it that women are allowed to vote and work in the professional world, but yet that line is suddenly crossed when a girl goes to ask a boy out? Feminists didn't really work hard for equal rights all these years just to have their efforts go unrealized, did they? Is dating on the verge of extinction? And is hanging out the new non-committal alternative? Well, Elder Oaks seems to agree that dating is becoming an endangered species, and gives what he believes to be the contributing reasons. Number 1. The cultural tides in our world run strongly against commitments in family relationships. For example, divorce has been made legally easy and childbearing has become unpopular. These pressures against commitments obviously serve the devil's opposition to the Father's plan for his children. That plan relies on covenants or commitments kept. Whatever draws us away from commitments weakens our capacity to participate in the plan. Dating involves commitments, if only for a few hours. Hanging out requires no commitments, at least not for the men if the women provide the food and shelter. Number 2. The leveling effect of women's movements have contributed to discourage dating. As women's options have increased and some women have become more aggressive, some men have become reluctant to take traditional male initiatives, such as asking for dates, lest they qualify for the dreaded label, quote-unquote, male chauvinist. Number 3. Hanging out is glamorized on TV programs about singles. And lastly, number 4. The meaning and significance of a date has also changed in such a way as to price dating out of the market. For whatever reason, high school boys especially feel they have to do something elaborate or bizarre to ask for a date, especially for an event like prom, and girls feel equally obligated to accept in a likewise manner. In addition, a date has become somewhat of an expensive production. So, should the modern woman assume the role of the pursuer? I'd like to argue no, she shouldn't. If a man won't take the time to get to know you now and treat you with respect, there is certainly no possible way of him doing this later. So, you may need to give him the confidence to ask you out by being a little more forward or showing more interest, but never ask him out yourself. First of all, why is this happening? There are many speculations as to why we are seeing this recent trend change. Many argue that video games might be the cause, that in the virtual world there is no risk involved. For example, the A button always equals jump. This instills fear in men that the real world is full of rejection and unexpected outcomes. Others argue that feminists have overstepped their boundaries, leaving men to sit back and become lazy. So, who's winning at this game of love? No one is. As we see in Exhibit A, a great majority of the women, 93% in fact, preferred to be asked out, while only 6% preferred to do the asking. The majority of men preferred to do the asking, 83%, while 16% preferred to be asked out on a date. Note that more men preferred to be asked out, 16%, than there were women who preferred to do the asking, only 6%. So the majority of men still prefer to do the asking, while the majority of women prefer to be asked. The outliers are the ones in this equation that are throwing off the formula. Now that we know the issues at hand and the speculated reasons why it is happening, let's talk about how it is affecting both men and women. First, men. It makes a man feel like he isn't doing his job, providing and protecting. It's just human nature. Men are hunters. It's a fact. Men like to go after what they want, and even the most shy of guys wants to ask a girl out himself. If a woman invites a man on a date, the man might still act like a gentleman, but he won't view their date as something of great worth because he didn't really work for it. It came easily to him. In the 70s, women's rights were widely received. Greater equality, or at least equity, between the genders seemed fair. But dating expert Evan Mark Katz warned that women could come across as, quote, aggressive, desperate, and masculine, end quote. Rather, he encouraged women to use their feminine wiles to get men to ask them out. After personally interviewing several men about this issue, I found that the majority still want to feel like they worked for the date. They've gotten the courage to ask you out, they've saved their money, they've planned a fun activity, and you could be anywhere else, but you chose to be with them that night. That validates men and boosts their self-esteem. Now, women. Being human beings with emotional needs, both men and women need validation. More women are pursuing careers and often use the "I don't have time for dating" card as a made up excuse for why they are not being asked out. When dating opportunities don't present themselves, what is a woman supposed to do? We can't be expected to sit around and wait our whole lives. Women may not admit to caring if they are asked out, but they certainly do care. If a man shows he is interested in her, it is flattering. Women need that emotional validation. So, what is to be done about it? Well, men need to be men and step up. That's a given. But if we are speaking directly to women, there are plenty of things we can do to tactfully get the train moving. Send a clear signal. Let a potential date know if he wants to get to know you, he can plan something fun and extend an invitation. Women can do a lot of initiating if the boy is interested but a little timid. I do, however, agree that there are instances where it would be alright for a girl to ask a guy out. Towards the end of the summer, my friends and I hadn't been on more than one date, which even 10 years ago this was unheard of, especially with living in the dorms for 4 months. People would go on dates at least once a week or twice a week back then. So why are we not dating at all now? Something needed to be done, so we came up with an idea. My friends and I put our names in a jar and randomly partnered everyone up. We then had a friend who would set up another friend with a boy of their choosing. A blind date, or a date chosen by a third party. Yes, the girls still had to pay for the date because we organized it, but at least we had a fun night. And the boys were gentlemen, and we actually reintroduced a lot of them to the normality of dating. And a lot of the boys went on to ask many more girls out on many more fun, simple, inexpensive, great dates. So it doesn't need to be elaborate. Elder Oak says, all of this makes dating more difficult because the more elaborate and expensive a date needs to be, the fewer dates there are. As dates become fewer and more elaborate, this seems to create an expectation that a date implies seriousness or continuing commitment. That expectation discourages dating even more. Gone is the clumsy and inexpensive phone call your parents and grandparents and I used to make. This call went something like, "What are you doing tonight? How about a movie?" Or, "How about taking a walk downtown?" Cheap dates like that can be frequent and non-threatening, since they don't seem to imply a continuing commitment. Simple and more frequent dates allow both men and women to shop around in a way that allows extensive evaluation of prospects. So, dating is how people get to know Dating is how people get to know a Dating is how people get to know each other. I've made some of my closest friends by going on group dates. It also helps with one's social skills and etiquette. The lack of practice and proper behavior in social situations has crippled many young people when it comes to communication skills. As we learn in public speaking, the art of communication is a learned skill, and the only way to obtain it is to practice. Learn now. Date. Women have been given power where power is due, and that is wonderful. However, there is a difference between political equality among genders and gender equality in personal and social roles. That line is crossed when women ask guys out. So, have girls been asking boys out on dates? No, they haven't. They've only really ever explored this idea. One might think that after decades of increasing equality between men and women in the political spectrum, that the dating world would start operating the same way, with women doing an equal amount of asking. But the answer is still generally no. We've waited, and we are still waiting. In fact, we are beyond done with waiting. There are plenty of women who would love to go out on the town with a respectful gentleman willing to take the time to get to know her. That's the truth. So, men, release your inhibitions. Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game of love. There is someone out there for you, and the only way to find her is by dating, and dating a lot. Girls, Try to give them a chance and let them know when you're interested. It's the only solution if you don't want to renew your membership in the Lonely Hearts Club this year. Keep dating or start dating. Thank you.